Welcome to Future Ready Live, where we talk about topics that will help CPAs, CGMAs, finance and accounting pros prepare for change and transformation. Today, we're going to be talking about the CFO agenda, top issues for 2021 from a recent Hackett Group report. Joining me is Nilly Essaides. She's a senior research director for finance, EPM, FinOps at the Hackett Group and lead author of the 2021 Top Issues Report. Say hello to everyone, Nilly.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Tom. Nice to be here.
It's awesome to have you here, by the way. So I want to start with, when we first reached out to you, it was because of your LinkedIn post titled FP&A Must Do Better in 2021. And that post generated a phenomenal string of like 30 comments.
I know.
It was like that in itself was like a white paper. Anyhow, that's what said, I need to talk to this lady and understand this report. So anyhow, that's what we started talking about, like looking out what's beyond this pandemic. And I want to actually quote from the report, because you start out, and I think it's pretty salient. You say, quote, "Face unknowable period of continued disruption, finance must play a critical role in helping companies chart their course forward. While the pandemic-driven recession will make spend reduction an important focus, becoming a strategic advisor to the business is the number one objective on the finance agenda for 2021. You couldn't say what we've been thinking about any better than that, Nilly. So let's get going. So I want to start with, what was your biggest insight about that report and the research? Like, what stuck out for you as you put it together?
I think the biggest insight relates to that quote you were just sharing. The focus and the mandate from management, senior management, to become a better advisor to the business. And the reason being that the environment around us, while it's not as disruptive as it was last year, that disruption really caused a bit of a shakeup and a wake-up call for a lot of finance organizations about inability to keep track of change, respond quickly, foresee change. And so as we moved into this year, their role as helping the businesses make fast decisions about where to invest and where not to invest in this environment. Decisions such as buying another company, expanding a product line, reducing headcount, increasing headcount. All those decisions need finance support among different constituents, be they the business units, other G&A functions, R&D, all the partners that finance can have. And as a result, we see a real pickup in the focus on analytics, specifically predictive analytics, which is why I wrote the piece about FP&A, because that's a lot of where that resides. Depending on where you are, it would be management accounting or FP&A or controlling. That's the part of the finance organization that is responsible for business partnering, that is responsible for coming up with useful insight. So to me, the biggest takeaway is that cost, while important, as you said, no longer number one, even though we're facing a continued economic uncertainty, but instead we're looking at finance as a value-adding partner.
Yeah, which is the whole notion of value partnering is a big theme that we've been seeing and forecasting, but you're right, I think we've been propelled into that role as we go now. Now, interesting enough, as your research goes on, you talk about two new issues on your top 10 list, which really struck us, which was this idea of aligning skills and talent and improving finance from this business partnering standpoint or value partnering. So this is just more of the response to what's happening through this pandemic?
In part, it's a response to several trends, and some predate the pandemic. For example, the digital transformation of the finance function has created a need for new skills and competencies. And being a business partner requires a whole set of competencies by itself. And so there's a great focus, and we were so pleased to see that talent has jumped up into our top 10 list because it never made it before. And that has made us very concerned because it really undermines the finance mission, if it is to add value. And so I think we have a recognition now among CFOs and senior leadership that finance needs to catch up, upskill, and develop skills that are commensurate with its new mandate as a business partner, including a whole slew of skills. This is not just about digital skills, such as becoming more tech savvy, more data savvy to keep up with digital transformation, but also what we call core skills, such as influencing and critical thinking, and storytelling, and the ability to provide insight through a very speaking the language of the business, let's say, right? Or having business acumen. So we see a great emphasis among clients on developing competency models that we didn't see before. In fact, one of our clients stopped doing that a couple of years ago because of cost issues, and then came back full steam just recently because the imperative is such that you must do that in finance. Yeah. So, it was great to see that jump up.
We totally agree. We've been working on that for a while, and we've got our own version of what we think some of those critical skills that we've been polling and researching around also. We put it in a thing we call the T-shaped professional, that building on the deep technical management, accounting, finance, et cetera, and then adding those skills like sense making and leadership, or anticipating and serving evolving needs, strategic and critical thinking, those kind of things. Shared that with you. Any thoughts about that as it relates to what you were seeing? Are we on point there?
I think you are. I mean, we use the categories, the skills are all on point with us and what we're thinking as well. We choose to show that not as a T-shape, but as a wheel, because and the wheel is divided into 3 skill categories, if you digital skills, core skills, and technical skills, and all of them are interrelated. Yeah. So we don't think of the certain skills as foundational and others built upon that, but we think of all these skills in a circle as they relate to one another. So that's a bit of a difference. But the actual skills that you mentioned, the competencies, such as the ones you just said, are very much aligned with what we see evolving in that finance competency model.
Yeah, and the key is going to be how fast they can actually begin to implement and put some kind of upskilling. Our philosophy has been to say, just prioritize what would be the most skill, a couple that would make the most difference, and get started while you're trying to figure it out. Don't wait and try to create the perfect competency model and take years, because you'll miss that opportunity in the middle. I see you're shaking your head knowingly, because I've seen companies work for years trying to figure that out. It's like pick the top 2 or 3 and get moving. All right, so I want to talk about another thing which really kind of impressed me in your thing, and it ties to another area that we've been seeing with a lot of the CFOs that we've been talking about, which gets to your top 10 challenges on that key issue list, right? And the transformation hurdles. And right. I remember number 2 and number 3 are like right in line with our research. Number 2 is finance staff lack of critical skills or deficiency, right? So back to that skill thing. And then number 3 was the organizational resistance to change. Tell me a little bit about how you thought about those and what was driving those.
I think the survey results came in as mentioned, with those 2 at the top 3 as issues that are preventing finance from moving into its transformative agenda. And talent, as we were talking about, is just so critical. I mean, you can have the best analytics program. You can have a mandate from the top to be a business partner. All of it is completely useless if people don't have the skills to take advantage of technologies, to have the productive conversation with their business partner. And so that skill that said that they must build, and some have it and some don't, and it kind of depends, needs to start encompassing all of those capabilities. I think about resistance to me, when I was thinking about that recently, I thought we have some good news on that, I think. Resistance to change has been traditionally a hurdle. Obviously, people don't like changing the way they do things. It's natural. But the experience of last year and the speed with which finance professionals have had to respond to going remote, to dealing with new technologies, to using technology to communicate and collaborate, I think it proved to them and to management, but mostly to the actual staff and the professionals, that they can change. Change may be scary, but it's possible. They can actually do it pretty fast. And that builds confidence. And so you come back with a new process design or a new technology, and they can, remind them that last year all this stuff happened and you did great. So this shouldn't phase you as much. So I think that's kind of it's a terrible crisis, but it had this outcome of being more tolerant of change, or in fact, in some cases, seeking change. So I think that's a really positive development that we see. And to be honest, there'll always be people who are not willing to change. There'll be pockets of resistance, no matter what you do. And then some of these people, unfortunately, will not stay with the organization. And you'll hire new talent, and that's just part of the evolution.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I would say we've been advising folks to literally blame it on COVID. Say we've had to accelerate through this. COVID's continuing to put new pressures on us. And so the mandate is we've got to do this. And you're right, that should help. I think the other one that we've noticed, though, is a mindset. And the people that are maybe okay with trying it, but are still questioning it a lot, if you start to introduce them into the kind of notion of these external forces and trends and what they mean to finance and accounting, like exponential is one big concept that people need to understand, because that's driving the technology. And literally we're doubling in new applications, new ways of working pretty much every year. So you have to get people to, I also think, be in for a sustained period of change. Because do you see it, is it going to all stop next year when we're done?
It's not going to stop anytime in the near future, or any time, period.
Right.
So the capability you need to develop as a professional is not just not resisting this change, but being open and flexible to get out of your comfort zone and be okay with the next change, sort of a continuous change mentality. And I think to make that happen, you were mentioning education, right? Making people aware of these forces. That's should be a holistic change management strategy where you understand the context. So you're not just looking at your job and what change. You actually understand the impact on the entire company, the impact on the entire finance organization, and how things must change for it to be successful and for you to be successful. So constant communication, transparency, keeping people involved, getting buy-in, all these good concepts of change management have not changed. That's one thing that perhaps hasn't changed. Just put those in place. You have to, because change is going to be continued.
Spot on. And you're right. We're seeing the exact same thing. And this idea of getting the mindset right, which is about all that communication and understanding that change flow. And I think you reminded us of the fact that it's going to be constant. We're not going to get through this and say, oh, dust our hands off, we're done. It's going to be the next wave will start before the last wave is actually done, I think, in many of these cases. So, all right, as we wrap up here, I want you to, what if you could offer a CFO or finance leader one piece of advice from your research and experience, what would it be? Like, what should they be really thinking about or doing as we come out of this stuff?
I think they need to do, what they need to think about is the learnings from last year about the capability of the organization to change quickly, and not forget that and use that to leverage more change that needs to happen, and understand that finance can come out of this mess better, improved, more ready for the future, or future ready, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be more digital, new ways of work, all the things we've talked about, with a real focus on developing that value-adding capability through business partnership, which encompasses so many things: talent, technology, agility, all these other points that came out in our survey. You can bundle them in many ways under this business partner advisor category.
That is so good. And you're right. I really do think this is a defining moment for finance. I mean, I think getting through the pandemic was the first big defining moment, and how many of all of you out there helped your businesses survive through your quick work. But now it's time to go one more step and get into that full value partnering role, and really make that CFO moving from just about spend and control into helping the business grow and thrive, right? That's where I think we're all headed towards.
I agree. Yeah, that's where we're going.
Well, this is awesome. So, Nilly, you had some amazing takeaways. I'm taking notes. We are going to do a follow-up blog post on this. You can follow Nilly on LinkedIn. It's Nilly Essaides, Essaides. Visit the Hackett group online. It's www.Hackett group.com. And you can follow them on Twitter @ the Hackett group. So with that, Nilly, thank you so much for joining me today.
Happy to. It was great. I had a great time.
It is fun. And so thank you so don't miss our other Future Ready Live sessions. We'll be back here on LinkedIn the first and third Tuesday of each month at noon Eastern. See you then.